Hello, everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. And as we get a little older, there are some things that become more of a concern for us and then maybe on our mind more than when we were younger. And one of those things is dementia and Alzheimer's disease. We don't know much about it. If we have maybe friends or family that are suffering from it. And so we've got a guest today who's going to help us to unravel some of the myths about it and talk about the research and treatments that may be coming along. So my guest is Laurie LeBay. Laurie is an expert, an advocate for Alzheimer's and dementia, not research, but changing the culture about thinking about it, changing the mindset about it. And she is the founder of a really amazing website called Alzheimer's Speaks. And she does all kinds of webinars and workshops on educating people and involving people with dementia in the conversation to change it. So, Laurie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Margaret. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you here because we have about 45,000 women in our community, 60 and Me, and they're all over the world. And we get regular conversations on this topic. We've talked a little bit earlier about dementia and Alzheimer's, what the difference is. But I think that if you could maybe just do that little bit one more time, just tell us what the difference is, and then answer the question about what we can do about it. What research there is, what treatments there might be, and sort of take it to the next level. But maybe just explaining what they are first would be great.
Okay. Again, dementia is an umbrella term for different types of symptoms of neurological disorders. And Alzheimer's is one set of symptoms. The most common types of dementia you'll hear about are Lewy body, vascular dementia, frontal temporal lobe. That's where they have more behaviors. And so everyone reacts a little bit differently, just like we do when we get a cold.
Yeah.
I say it's kind of like a cold. Different symptoms hit people differently. And so there isn't this, little cheat sheet card that says, this is what's going to happen. This is what it's going to look like. And that's one of the things that makes it difficult for the doctors to diagnose this disease.
So let me ask you a question then. So if dementia is the umbrella or the cold and the symptoms are different in different people, what does Alzheimer's look like? I mean, what is the characteristic of Alzheimer's?
Mm-hmm. Alzheimer's, again, can vary from person to person. Okay. A lot of them are now saying Alzheimer's-like symptoms, and so it's changing. Yeah, exactly. We are learning. But for most people, it's going to be memory loss. It's going to be confusion in terms of keeping an orderly day, being able to complete tasks. They can't do complex questions. So, for example, if you go to a restaurant, someone will say, the wait staff a lot of times will rattle off 10 different, deals of the day, and you've lost them after one, or they've asked, would you like something to drink? And they'll say, what do you have? And then they rattle off, hot and cold and alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. And so we have to break those things down and say, would you like something hot or cold? We have to start making things simpler. And that's probably one of the most beautiful things for me as a daughter with a mother who had this disease for so long, was it taught me to simplify my life and to let go of control, and it brought me much more peace and a closer relationship. So there's an upside to all of this stuff too. It's not just all scary.
So assuming that we understand the differentiation now between those two things, and either you are feeling that you might have some symptoms yourself, or you've got a friend or family member, what realistically are the treatments? And what's the research that's been done, and what treatments are you aware of?
There are tons of research projects going on, but yet there's still a pimple compared to cancer and heart disease and diabetes. So the studies are really quite small, and they change constantly from, we think we're on the verge of this, and then all of a sudden, kaput, it goes down. And here in the U.S., trying to get things through is extremely expensive and very, very time consuming. Usually, one drug, it'll take 20 years years, to go through the process. But they're all over the plate from, the peanut butter sniff that came out,
yes,
and if you,
yeah. Is that true? Is that actually useful? I mean, this sounds interesting.
I personally don't think so. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I think we're reaching for straws on so many levels that it's kind of sad. There's some really good research regarding, they talk about dementia or Alzheimer's in particular being almost like another form of diabetes.
Yes.
And they're seeing some similarities with that. So here actually in St. Paul and at the Mayo Clinic, they are doing a nasal inhaler type thing that breaks through the blood-brain barrier, and that research is done on many sites around the world right now. And they're doing some great progress with that. But then 60 Minutes just had a big thing about people over 90, and they actually went in and did autopsies, and they found that there were people that were perfectly fine, yet they had all these plaques and buildup in the brain that they say is dementia. So we really don't know. So the best thing to do, and we talked about this before, is to know your own body.
Yes.
And respect that, and don't and try not to go down the rabbit hole. And it's really hard because the stigmas are so large, but things are changing. There's a grassroots effort that is just massive in terms of giving hope and being supportive and showing that there's life with this disease. Mm-hmm. One of the big fears with it was, they would say, well, you have 7 to 11 years once you're diagnosed. Well, that's not so true anymore. And they're finding out because we're diagnosing earlier. My mom was well aware of her disease way before the doctors were. And if I would have given up on her, or if she would have given up on her, what a sad life that would have been.
Yeah.
And instead, there were all these gifts, that were given. When anytime there's a chronic illness, there's a choice we make on how to live our life.
Yes.
And there can be great gifts and closeness that we can get out of that. So part of it's living well together. And how do we do that? I think.
Yeah. Well, you talked earlier about what treatments are possible. And as you've said, I mean, they're all over the place and people are just trying everything and there's just tons of research going on. But what about the simple things that I know a lot of people refer to? For example, there's certain foods that people recommend that you eat to strengthen your brain. I think salmon, fish oils, those kinds of things. And then you've got people that say, drink a lot of water or you should exercise. What would you say, are they helpful or is there something else that we should be doing?
I would say all of those things are extremely helpful. And I think one of the reasons they're helpful is that if you think they're helpful, they will be helpful.
Psychological.
There's a lot to, I believe there's a lot to do with that. But I mean, chemical wise, green leafy foods, eating the berries, the salmon, the coconut oil, for a long time, people poo-pooed the coconut oil and man, they're getting a lot of headway, or the cumin and different types, of things that
Spices.
can be, that can be used and can be really helpful. And again, I think if you believe it and you incorporate it in your life, it surely isn't going to hurt you.
Well, that's like exercise too. I mean, I've spoken to a neuroscientist who said that was the number one thing to help your brain rejuvenate. I mean, apparently the brain is another thing that we don't know anything about. I mean, but I think you mentioned earlier too about social connection, and I think that's really important. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to add on to the exercise. One of the things is, just getting our blood flowing and the oxygen, and we all know that. And the brain is like the heart. I mean, it's got main piece to us. It needs the blood flow. It needs the oxygen. So that only makes common sense for us to do that. And I know for me, I'm much more sedentary than I should be.
A lot of us.
And looking looking to definitely change that this year. But again, the social connection, I think, is just absolutely critical. I personally think that's why my mom lived as long as she did, was she was socially connected. She lived her life differently, and she pulled back in certain areas because she didn't want to be embarrassed or embarrass anyone else, or she was self-conscious in some ways. But she still loved being around people, and she connected through her smile and her eyes and her laugh. And once we could get past having to correct her, feeling that need of, life is right or wrong, it's black or white, and we started living in the gray. There's somebody out there that has a blog, 50 Shades of Dementia, which I just
That's
love.
interesting, yeah.
and it really is, chronic illness is in that shaded area, and how do you live lovingly and compassionately with that? People will ask me all the time, does your mom know you? Because we think someone has to know our name. And this is just kind of a prime example of that connection. And I came to the realization that we're more than a name. When I was born and when I was really little, I couldn't say her name, and she still loved me. So why would I not love her when she can't say my name? Our connections are so much deeper. Sometimes it's just nice to, even when we're with someone who is totally healthy, we just like to sit on the couch and not say a word. We just like to be in their presence.
One thing I want to make sure we talk about, though, before you go, that's music. We talked about you talked about treatments, and your mom obviously was having medications, and I'm sure you were trying all kinds of things to make her comfortable. But I've heard that it's really powerful to play music to someone who's got dementia, and you've got some experience of that.
Well, music is probably one of the most overly used and underappreciated tools that we have. I mean, we all put it on when we're in the car, we sing in the shower, we do all kinds of things. And music, certain songs will make us cry, make us laugh. Sure. And that does not go away just because a person has dementia. It's one of the parts of the brains they found is the last piece that typically is attacked by the disease. And so someone who might not be able to speak can still sing. Somebody who used to play the piano, who you look at them as a shell of a body, you put their hands on those ivory keys and they start playing. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's a project called Alive Inside, where they're getting iPads and they're hooking people up to music. And if you Google Alive Inside, you will see magnificent video of what happens with music. I have on my YouTube channel several short videos of my mom where a friend came, and she's not a formal music therapist, but she sang and she engaged my mom, and she would mom would giggle and laugh and sing some of the words, then she'd fall asleep, and then she'd pull her back out again, and it was just it's so precious. I've walked into conferences with my mom on the big screen because they're just so powerful. And again, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. There's a couple of great companies. Choral Health does what they call music prescriptions for people, so they can help wake them up, put to sleep, eat, exercise, switch moods, which is pretty cool. And they've got a mobile app. There's another company called Alzheimer's Music Connect that does a fantastic job as well. So there's lots of different things that are very inexpensive to be able to tap into. And even if you can't purchase those products, knowing the type of music your person likes. So don't be playing your music to them. Play their music.
Yeah, and I actually saw one of the videos that you've talked about with an older gentleman who liked Cab Calloway, and his daughter brought some Cab Calloway music, and he just came to life. It was amazing to see the transformation. But I think what you've said here, which is really interesting, is that we don't know what treatments there are for Alzheimer's or dementia. We don't know how to prevent it, but we do know that when it happens, and if it happens, there's lots to be done. Lots of relationships to be developed, and your mother's situation was a perfect example, and that's where we have to go with this. We have to take that social connection and make sure you're in a strong relationship with a community. It can bring you through these things.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And there's so many gifts wrapped in disease if we choose to look for them. One of the things when I go to speak, I tell people what I have found is that we remember three things in life. We remember what saddens us and brings us tears. We remember what scares us and brings us fear. And we remember joy. So if we have those three things to choose from, what do you want to focus on?
I'm going for joy.
Yeah, and when we make that conscious choice, it makes it so much easier, because the fear is typically what's to come, and we worry about a lot of stuff we can't control and a lot of stuff that never happens, or we live in the past about what we've lost instead of what we've had. And when we live in the future or the past, we miss the current moment to find the joy or create the joy that's right before us.
You were actually really, really lucky, I think, that you actually have, you're talking to us now through having gone through that experience. I think a lot of women are in the middle of that chaotic situation where they're just starting on the journey with a mother or father or a friend, or they're going through it themselves. And I think that's the challenge. And what I love about what you're doing is, and I'd like you to tell us more about your work, is you're actually trying to break through the stigma, so that people can relax, as you say, with it and see it as a learning opportunity. But your website is Alzheimer's Speaks. It's a really brilliant website. It's got lots of resources and things I didn't even know about. So could you tell us a bit about the resources that you offer and how people can connect with you?
Sure. It's alzheimersspeaks.com. Right. They can actually become a member, and then there's free tools on there. One of them is your memory chip, which was a huge shift for me, and a lot of doctors are using that with their clients, and people can use it, families can use it, and professionals, and it's a real simple tool. And I'll just mention I'll mention the one piece that's the most pertinent, because there's like 3 questions. But I used to ask people all the time, what do you need to focus on when you're giving care to someone with dementia? And every single time people would do the same thing. They would rattle off a list of tasks they had to do. I have to do the medications and the meals and the doctor's appointments. And what I noticed when I finally sat back and listened was that with every single one of those tasks, there was a twang in their voice. And so even though we feel we're being real person-centered because every task is for someone else, emotionally it was about us. And it was something that we really didn't want to do. And we see this a lot with families. I thought life would be different, or spouses. We just retired. Yeah. We planned differently. And so what I started to do for myself, and what now many others are doing, is focusing not on the task, but focusing on 3 simple things. Is the person safe, happy, and pain-free? Because when you focus on those 3 things first, you truly are being person-centered, and you let go of your emotional ties. And so if, when my mom would repeat herself 45 times in 10 minutes, I would go, Lori, she's safe, she's happy, she's pain-free. Let it go. And I actually have like little bracelets that you can buy, and you can actually snap yourself with them if you want to, as a little reminder. But it's just that's one thing that they'll find on the site. But again, they'll be able to access all the recordings to the radio show, the articles, the past Dementia Chat webinars. We talk about the Purple Angel Project, which is a global effort to have one symbol for all dementias. Instead of, there's, over 100 different dementias out there, and everyone's fighting to be heard. And this group, started by Norms McNamara in the UK, said, let's stop. Let's work together. Let's be one. We can get more done, because there's so much overlap between the disease. And so now there's this globe with a purple angel, and it's just brilliant. It needs no words, and anybody can use it. It's for businesses and individuals. They can use it on their Facebook page. They can put it on business materials, and it's all about getting someone to say, hey, what is that?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to do, which I love, is just bring people together and a common cause. And I think you said it earlier about, that's about not being fearful, but being hopeful.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's exactly, and everyone is coming together with the Purple Angel initiative, and that with that in mind.
Yeah, and it's very simple. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. People just have to commit to read either a poster or like a 3-page document that was written by Norms McNamara, who has dementia, that says this is what it can be like.
Yeah.
And this is the difference you can make. And so it's not, being dementia aware and utilizing the Purple Angel. I think one of the coolest things about it, it's not about having all the answers.
Well, you said it's a baby illness. We're just starting off in our knowledge about it. Lori, I am so glad that I've met you, and I'm so glad that you're in our world. And what I'd love to do is have you send us some of those links that you've mentioned, and we'll put them in the article with the video so that people can go and check them out. But I highly recommend they go to your website, Alzheimer's Speaks. And, just best of luck to you with all that you're doing. And thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm honored to be part of your community. You've got a wonderful community going there.
Oh, you are welcome to be here with us. We're happy. Thank you, Lori. Take good care.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.